Hello and welcome to Sensation and Perception of Spring 2021. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Alex. You don't have to call me Dr. Daniel unless you really want to, or Professor Daniel. You can just call me Alex. That's totally fine. This semester we will be hanging out working on sensation and perception. So what this video is going to talk a little bit about what to expect in our course. So it's kind of like a syllabus day type of video. So I would prefer that you watch this video before you watch the chapter 1 videos. Because this is an online class and not a remote synchronous class, we won't actually be meeting. So you don't have to attend specific class times. You can access all this information and all these materials, all this content at your leisure whenever you get a chance to. Alright, so let's get right into it. So this PowerPoint that I made, it actually has a lot of optical illusions in it, and I'm probably going to speed through some of them because there's probably I probably put in too many. But this is a relatively famous one. If you haven't seen it before, and it's not quite working for you yet, what I would encourage you to do is just let your eyes wander across the screen. So, if you stare at one specific place, you'll note that it does not seem like it is moving. It seems like it is perfectly still. But if you let your eyes just kind of gaze, forward and back across the screen, it feels like it's moving. Now, this is not a video. This is just an image. If you don't believe me, you can find these PowerPoint slides and you can look at it yourself. You can see this is totally what your brain is doing. Your brain is perceiving motion, but there is no actual motion here. So what are we going to be talking about today? What I want to do is give you a little brief overview of the course, go through some examples of perceptual illusions, and then at the very end, I'm going to walk you through how to use Plato in case you haven't used Plato before. But the fact that this is spring 2021, I will assume that most of you probably do have some experience with Plato, but that's why I'm saving it for the very end, so that way, in case you want a little bit of a refresher, you can find it there. All right, so what is this course? What is it all about? Here is one specific example that I'm going to give you. This is a motion illusion, and let's see, I'm going to pull this up here. I hope the sound works. Alright, so that is the Ames window. We're going to be talking about how that works later in the semester, but I just thought this would be like a cool little way to get you a little bit interested in that. So I hope the sound worked. If it didn't, you can find the YouTube link to that in the PowerPoint slides. Here's another example. Keep your eyes focused right here on the cross, and you'll see that all of these celebrities, well, most of them from the late 90s, early 2000s, you can see that their faces look very distorted, right? And now if you look at any of them in the actual eye as these images move on, they look totally normal. But if you look right there in the crosshairs, their faces look distorted. We'll talk about that when we talk about facial recognition. That's in chapter 4. Here is another example of how color can create the illusion of motion. So this particular video, you'll note if you hold your cursor or hold your finger over any of these people, you'll see that they don't actually move. But the presence of color there does make it seem like they are moving, which is pretty incredible. All right, so we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about chapter 5, but also when we talk about motion, which is in chapter 8. Here, this is a very famous example. This was famous maybe, I don't know. Wow, has it been? It hasn't been 10 years, but it's almost been 10 years, maybe 7 years ago, that this dress set the internet on fire. Some people think that it is blue and black. Some people see this as white and gold. And the people, no matter what you see, you're going to be very, very confident that it is either blue and black or that it is white and gold. The actual truth is that it is blue and black. But if you see white and gold, I will tell you why you see white and gold in a couple of weeks. So when we start talking about color perception, we'll talk about this particular meme there. Here is another example very similar to the one we saw before, where the presence of color makes it look like there is motion, but there's not actually motion. So if you were to put your finger on any point of this, you'll see that it doesn't actually move. It just has the illusion of movement. So we'll talk about why and how that works. The Yanni versus Laurel debate, this is a little bit newer than the blue and black dress. As you can see, this is from the summer of 2018. But if you don't remember this, you can click through it here. We'll talk more about this in the semester too. But basically there's a sound that plays, and some people hear it as Yanni, and some people hear it as Laurel. And it's kind of a fun little exercise. And we'll talk about how that works in chapter 11 when we start talking about music and speech perception. This flag looks like it is the incorrect colors, but what I want you to do is to focus right here on this little black dot in the middle of the flag. This flag, which is not red, white, and blue, right? It is yellow and cyan and black. I just want you to stare at it for a moment, let your eyes soak up the colors. So try not to move your eyes, just focus there on that black dot. And then whenever I move it away, there should be an after image. And that after image is red, white, and blue, right? The actual colors of the flag. So we'll talk about how that works in chapter 5 when we talk about opponent color theory. All right, here is another example of that. We'll go over that later in the semester, but it's the same idea as the flag that you just saw, but it is in motion. But because I've been going for 8 minutes so far, I want to move on so that way we can at least cover what you came here to learn about, which is what this course is all about and what you can expect in this course. So this class, we're really going to be grappling with what sensation is and what perception is, and where those two things are similar and where those two things are different. We'll be talking about how our eyes are able to see the things that are in front of us, how we're able to perceive the things that are in front of us, and how can we tell, for example, that this phone is closer to you than this charging station. Just as an example. We're going to be talking about how we are able to perceive sound, because sound, what it actually is vibrations, so how those vibrations carry through the air and we are able to hear them. Why we get car sick, we're going to be talking about how we know the difference between a regular touch and a painful touch. So whenever someone just grabs your wrist versus whenever somebody pinches you, for example. We'll be talking about how we are able to smell odors and how we are able to taste something to know whether or not it's nutritious or whether or not it's spicy or whether or not it's fatty. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things this semester. This gives you a quick look at some of the things that we are going to be answering this semester, this spring. So this class is a basic processes course, and as you know, as part of your degree, you have to take at least 2 basic processes courses. Thank you for choosing sensation and perception as one of those 2. But because of that, this class is going to feel like psychology, but for the most part, a lot of it is going to feel like anatomy, a lot of it is going to feel like biology, a lot of it is going to feel like physics and chemistry and philosophy. There's a lot of different things that this class is going to feel like, and sometimes it will feel like psychology too. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this right up front is because whenever I took this course, whenever I was an undergrad, that was over 10 years ago, I remember in the classroom thinking like, this doesn't really feel like psychology. And that's just because a lot of the classes that I had taken were mostly about outward behavior and how we interact with people and things like that. That's only a portion of psychology. Another big portion of psychology is just the basics. It's like how the brain works, how our neurons work, how our ears and eyes and taste work, and how we are able to sense the world around us. That's a huge part of our everyday behavior, but not really talked about all that much in your psychology classes. We're really going to be talking about it a lot in this class. So it may not feel like your abnormal psychology class. It may not feel like your developmental psychology class, but it is a psychology class. Yeah, all right. So this is the book that I ordered the bookstore to get. This is, as you can see, the 5th edition. I like this book quite a bit, but it is a little bit dense. And this is coming from the 5th edition. It is okay, as I mentioned in an email that I sent out before the semester began, that if you want to, you can start with the 4th edition if you want to save money. I actually don't know if there's a huge difference in money if between the 4th and 5th edition, because they just released the 6th edition. The 6th edition I haven't even cracked open yet, so I'm not working from it. But the 4th and 5th edition is not that different. The 3rd and 4th edition are not that different. The 2nd edition is quite different, in my opinion, than the 3rd edition and the 4th edition and the 5th edition. So if you're going to get an older edition, that's totally fine. But if you get with the 2nd edition, just beware, there might be some differences there. But otherwise, the chapter sequencing between chapter 4 and 5 are identical. This is a good book. I like it very much because if you can see, it's kind of hard to see on this, but like these names down here, these are all basically leaders in their field. So Jeremy Wolff, for example, who's the primary author here, he is a very famous visual scientist. And so he wrote the chapters about vision. You'll see Linda Bartoshuk below his name. She is one of the best researchers for taste, and she wrote the chapter on taste. Rachel Hers is very good with smell, and so she wrote the chapter on smell. So it's really, really cool that these kind of preeminent authors in their fields kind of submitted these chapters. Now, with that being said, it can be very technical, and because it's very technical, the lecture videos that I post are mostly going to cover the big concepts and trying to synthesize what these chapters are about. In most cases, I try not to cover too much information that's not in the textbook. And the reason for that is because I really want to focus on the textbook to make sure that we understand and comprehend this really technical, really difficult content. All right, so a little bit about the class expectations. This class is going to be a lot of work, but I will say that even though right now, we're in the middle of the coronavirus recovery, and so I know a lot of students have told me that their other classes are much more work than they would have done if it were an in-person class. I'm happy to say that the amount of work you get in my online classes are the same amount of work that you get in my in-person classes. I keep roughly the same type of assignments, and so it's pretty much the same. So with that being said, I do think that it is a lot of work, mostly because there are a lot of assignments. And the reason why I have a lot of assignments is because I prefer to give students multiple grading opportunities. You have probably been in classes before where they only have like 3 exams or 2 papers and that's it. I feel like that's really stressful, and I also feel like it's not really a good demonstration of what you've learned in the semester. So for that reason, there's lots of different quizzes that you can take so that you can improve your grade if you're like me and don't do so well on your first couple of assignments during a semester. So these assignments are all kind of designed to get you thinking about the material. They're not meant to be punishment. They're not meant to make you work long hours. They're simply just, all the assignments that I have a very specific purpose, and they're all meant to get you engaged with the material. So it might be a lot of work, but I want it to be as fair as possible. I don't believe in like tricky questions or nitpicky questions. I feel like the stuff is not usually important. So if you ever feel like I have questions that are tricky or too obscure, let me know, because I try to avoid that stuff. All of the assignments that we have in this class have a very predictable schedule. I don't like surprises, and I don't like random due dates. So everything that we do is basically going to be due on a weekly basis, almost always Sunday before the end of the day. And I say almost always, but in actuality, it is always Sunday before the end of the day. So that way, if you like to work on the weekend, you can do that there, or if you prefer to do it during the week, you can do that and then have your weekends off. So it's always going to be due on a Sunday. So the way that I see our class, and it's kind of my teaching philosophy, is that I don't like the antagonistic me versus you kind of dynamic that some professors like to use. Instead, I kind of see you and I as being on the same team. So I think of myself, I visualize myself a little bit like a coach. So I'm on your team, right? But I can't go out on the field and play for you. Instead, what I can do is I can give you as many tips and tricks and strategies and game plans that I can, so that you can do really, really well on the field and you can beat our rival, the Springfield Sensations or the Salem Perceptions, or however you want to determine. I want everybody to do really well in this class. But I can't let you cheat. I can't let you do something I can't let someone else on the field do it for you. You have to be able to do it yourself. So that's kind of my teaching philosophy. So I want to give you everything that I can to let you conquer this material and do really well. Here are some of the office hour informations. You can find all this stuff on the syllabus, but basically there are some regularly scheduled hours. I'm very happy to Zoom with you. I'm very happy to talk with you over the phone. So just let me know what you prefer. If these times don't work for you, we can figure something out by an appointment. So just let me know. Just say, hey, I can't meet with you. Can you meet Friday at 5 p.m.? And I'm happy to reschedule my life to work so that we can meet at a time that works for you. Here's another video, but I see that we're way over time, so I'm not going to show you this one. I'll show it to you in a later week, but you can access it by clicking on this link. It's really, really funny. I showed this video to Professor Bressler. And after it was done, he's like, oh, I think I'm going to throw up. So it may make you a little bit nauseated, so just be warned. But it is really, really cool. Here, man, I'm out of coffee and my throat's dry. I'm just going to power through it. So here is a quick look at the grading breakdown. So here are the different assignments that we have. So basically, as you can see in this pie chart, that half of your grade this semester is going to come from exams. We got 25% that comes from these chapter quizzes, 10% that comes from online discussions and activities, and 15% that come from the research quizzes, these really short research quizzes. So I'm gonna very quickly tell you what these different assignments are all about. So so it is a little bit intimidating to look at exams being 50% of your grade, but honestly, if you were to break that out into 4, which is how many exams we have, you can see that each of these exams does count for a good portion of your grade, but not a lot of your grade, right? So, they're roughly about 12% of your grade each. Each of these exams are going to be about 12 multiple choice questions and about 8 short answer questions. So they're not too long, but usually what I see is that people will wait and not study ahead of time, and they will crack open the book while they are working on the exam, and almost inevitably they run out of time. Usually I give about 75 minutes to 90 minutes on the exams, which sounds like a lot, right? An hour and a half, but it actually flies by if you're looking everything up. So the exams are going to be covering stuff from the lecture videos, are going to be covering stuff from the textbook readings and the online activities that we do. So pretty much everything is fair game here. Our final exam is not going to be cumulative. It's just going to cover the final 4 chapters. The quizzes, these are always going to be due online through Play-Doh Sunday before midnight. So you can find that stuff there. I would much prefer you to read before you take the quiz. Sometimes, though, if you really, really need to, you can open up the book and use the quiz as like a way to navigate the chapter. You get a whole hour to do these quizzes, so most people have lots of time left over. So the reason why and the reason why I would prefer you to read before you take the quiz is just because that, well, there's a lot of reasons, but for me, I think that it's always helpful to know the material before taking the quiz. That way you don't have to spend time looking it up. But also that way it can allow you to focus on the more advanced concepts whenever we go over the lecture videos. So that way you already have kind of, some knowledge of the chapter, and then you can think about these things at a higher level. But you can also figure out what areas are problematic for you, so that way you can let me know if there's anything that's particularly complicated, and I can help you kind of understand what that content is before you take the quiz. So all of those are going to be 12 multiple choice questions. They're all based straight out of the book, so you don't need to watch the videos before you take the quiz. Of course, it will help. But sometimes I have students that watch the videos and take the quiz and they get really frustrated. Keep in mind, all the quizzes come straight from the book. All right. So and also you can take it you can take it as many times as you want to, but only the first time is the one that is going to count for your final grade. There are chapter activities. I list these as activities here, but really they can also be described as discussions. These are all posted also online via Plato. A lot of these are open-ended questions. Some of them are going to be kind of cognitive-like tests, so like looking at different kinds of facial perception, quizzes, just different things like that. So oftentimes I will have, or lip reading, things like that. So, you'll do this, quick little self-assessment, and then you'll just respond to it in the discussion. Always, you'll want one post and one reply. Oftentimes, there will be at least a couple of students that don't reply to a classmate, and they get to the end of the semester and they get really upset because they realize that their grade has been impacted by this. So don't let that be you. Post something and then reply to a classmate. Those are also going to be due Sunday by the end of the day, just like your quizzes. So you can think at the end of every week, did I do the quiz? Did I do the discussion? Full credit here is going to be provided for the students that provide a really thoughtful post and response to a classmate. You can find a rubric online. I'll show you where to find that in just a moment. But you'll get partial credit if you, did a good job, or if you answered the question but didn't quite go the extra mile. The research quizzes, these are, there's 4 of these you can find this semester. In previous years, I required a written project. I'm not doing that this semester, and the reason for that is because these written projects, most students seem to imply they didn't get a lot out of it. And so for that reason, I'm not including written assignments like that this semester. But basically for each unit, so for each exam, there's going to be one research article that I assign that you'll need to kind of do some in-depth reading on. Because these are primary research articles, they are often very dense, they're often very technical, and they are often laden with jargon, so they can be a little bit hard to understand. So I know they can be intimidating, but for that reason, I would highly recommend setting aside some time so that you can really get into it and kind of unpack things, look things up if you don't know what they're talking about, or ask me through an email, if you have any questions. So these quizzes are really meant to kind of hammer home the idea that everything that we talk about this semester comes from research articles like these. They're in a textbook now, but they started out in a research article. So they're meant to promote scientific literacy. They're meant to promote critical thinking. I want you to leave this class feeling a little bit more comfortable with these research articles than before whenever you come in. So they are 45 minutes long that you can take these. They're part short answer, part multiple choice, just like the exams. They are due by the time of the exam, so you'll want to do those before you do our exams. Other details, if you have any kind of accommodations through the Binaco Center, just let me know. I'm very happy to work with you on those kind of accommodations. There are the makeup policy that we have is essentially like I don't provide makeups or makeovers or do-overs or redos, and part of that is because everything that I post is going to be well in advance. So for example, you'll see right now that the first 2 weeks are open, so you have plenty of time to knock out those quizzes. If there is some kind of emergency, just let me know and we can deal with those on a one-on-one basis. So I know that things are really hectic this season, this semester. So just email me if there's anything that is an emergency. There's zero tolerance for plagiarism. This is something that I take very, very seriously. I see this a lot on exams where students will either copy and paste or paraphrase something that they found online. And I'm just going to give zeros out for those. I don't have the patience for it. I would much rather you, if you do something like that, if you consult an online resource and you use that in your answer on an exam, just cite that resource. Let me know where you got it from. The reason why is because that way you can show that you're not trying to pass that information off as your own, that you're showing that it came from somewhere else. Which is good. That's what all scientists do, right? So that's a good habit to do. So if you're worried about plagiarism, if you're worried that you did consult an online resource and you don't want me to think that you're plagiarizing, then just leave a link. Just say, hey, here's what I got it from, and that way I know that you're not trying to be sneaky. You're not trying to be dishonest. So if you have any questions or if you're worried about it, you can always email me. You can always leave it. I would rather you do that than just submit it and then hope that I don't find it or hope for the best. And there's also, don't forget office hours. A lot of students don't typically visit during office hours with it being an online class, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. That I want to work with you in that fashion. All right, so you'll find on Play-Doh that there is an icebreaker as part of your first assignment. So you can find that on Play-Doh, and let me show you where to find that. So you can find that, it's right here. So let's go into Play-Doh. So this is Play-Doh, and you're probably familiar with it, but just to kind of show you a couple of things, now that we know what this course is all about, you can find, this is whenever you first log in, you're in student preview mode here, so this should be what you see right now. I haven't made any announcements because class hasn't started yet, but you will find announcements at least once a week pop up here. Over on the left-hand sidebar, if you can't see it, sometimes you have to kind of go over and click right here, if you can see that. So sometimes students will load it up and they don't know what to do. You can actually click this little gray bar and it should expand out, especially if you're using an iPad or if you're using your phone. That happens a lot. The contact me area, obviously this is ways you can contact me. It just reiterates a couple of things that I mentioned in the syllabus. If you want to access my Zoom, for example, you can click there and it'll pull up your Zoom and then we can meet face-to-face or voice-to-voice if you prefer to go cameras off. There's a suggestion box. This is a Google Forms, so that if there's anything that's not working for you and you don't feel like you're comfortable telling me one-on-one or through an email, you can leave some anonymous feedback right there. In almost every single case, I prefer emails just because I get those on my phone and it's really easy for me to interact with you that way. But if you prefer to keep it on Play-Doh, you can message me. And if you message me, it's a little bit harder for me to see because I don't always get notifications about that, so it can be a couple of days before I see that. And so for that reason, I definitely prefer email if that's okay with you. Let's see what else. If you click on course calendar, this is the calendar that you can also find in your syllabus. So you can see here for week 1, which is what we have right now. We do not have our chapter 1 is not this week. This week we're just getting used to the class, but if you want to, you can work ahead of schedule. That's going to be starting on week 2. So you'll see, week 2 starts chapter 1, week 3 starts chapter 2, week 4 starts chapter 3, and so on and so forth. But you'll see that the assignments are due on Sunday. You can see that for this Sunday, we don't have anything due. Next Sunday, we're going to have chapter 1 due. The Sunday after that, chapter 2, and so on. Then you can see on some weeks, they are a little bit more busy because that's whenever we have, the research quiz and the exam due. So that's part of the reason why I like to open up chapters ahead of time, so that way if you do like to work ahead of time or ahead of schedule, you can do that. And so that way, you know, week 5 won't be especially busy for you, and week 8 won't be especially busy for you because you worked ahead a little bit. So again, you can find this at the back of your syllabus. If you want to know where to find your syllabus, you can click the Start Here link. The Start Here link is going to show you the syllabus. It's going to show you the discussion rubric that I mentioned. And you can also find the same slides that I used in this video here. Along with this video, I'm going to tack it down here below this. So if you wanted to get you know, a look at these slides, you can do that there. You can find those there. So that's that for Start Here. This is basically our first week in that module. But let's take a look at the second week. So the second week in Chapter 1, here we have a quiz, we have a discussion, we have the lecture slides, and then we also have some videos that I've recorded. So usually what I recommend doing is in terms of the workflow, I recommend first reading the book, then coming through, downloading the slides, and watching the videos. That's probably what I would do. After you watch the videos, if you have the slides, you can follow along with those, you can take notes in them and things like that. And then do the discussion and then the quiz. And it doesn't matter which order you take the quiz or the discussion. You'll see that for our first discussion is basically going to be, you know, mostly just kind of icebreaker stuff. So you can find that there. Yeah, so that's you know, the first kind of week of assignments that we have. You can see that Chapter 2 here is going to be focusing on the basics of vision. So it's really kind of a lot about anatomy and how the eye works. You can find that there. You can find these videos that I put here. So if you click on it, you know, you can watch me. It's a little bit smaller, but you can do full screen if you like, or if you really like, you can hit this button. If you hit this top button, it'll break you out to a separate window. So some students prefer doing that too, but you have the option. All right. So, sorry, I just realized that you probably heard me talking over that. Sorry, what I was trying to say is that here, if you want to, you can do full screen here if you like, or if you click right here on the title, it'll take you to a separate window where it's a little bit easier to navigate for me. But if you prefer just keeping it all in one place, you can just click on these and watch them there too. And that is pretty much it. You're going to be able to find, so you can find the quizzes and discussions here, but you can also find the research quizzes. These are going to be here so that you can click on this, and it's going to give you the article. And then whenever you open this up, it gives you the question. If you click on exams, same deal. You're going to see the different exams and study guides that I've put together. There. You're not going to see as many of these once you open it up because I've deleted these and started over again. And finally, in case you were interested in this, now this option won't be for everybody, but some people don't like online classes. They prefer remote synchronous. If you are someone that prefers remote synchronous, you can access the my other class. So I'm teaching a class this semester. Let me give you the exact times. It's going to be, and I'll post this in an announcement as well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting at 9:20 and ending at 10:10 a.m. I'm going to be having another Sensation and Perception course where we're going to be talking about the exact same material. So it's the exact same material, roughly the same schedule. So if you are interested in that, you can access that with the Zoom link here. So if you want to, you can sit in on those lectures. It's going to be roughly the same thing as what you find in those videos there. It's just that it's a little bit more interactive, right? Because I can answer questions in real time. You can hear me talk about these things in real time. So if you prefer that, if you prefer to do remote synchronous, but you weren't able to get into that class, but you're in this one, you can still sit in with that class and do that there. So that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions at all, you know where to find me. Just send me an email at tdaniel@westfield.ma.edu. Otherwise, I hope you have a great week. Remember that during this first week, we don't have anything to do. But of course, if you want to get started on the work ahead, you can find that there. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you later. Bye.